All right, so welcome to All Access Coaches Corner with Rising Coaches. Check out www.risingcoaches.com to see all of the awesome features they have for memberships. Over 1,000 members. You can click on the website and check and see all the great benefits. Today we have a special guest, James Miller, Associate Head Coach at New Mexico State University, the Aggies. Well, so the schedule we'll go today, we'll do a little bit of interview first, and then we'll open up for questions, and then we'll go to some basketball demonstration by coach, and then we'll end with some more questions. So kind of gives you an idea, but man, one of the greatest people first and foremost in this business, man. I can't say enough great things about Coach. Obviously, the rest of the basketball world is starting to really recognize and show him love. Top Connect was just at Villa 7, I think a week ago or so, got selected as one of the top coaches in the country. Was one of the 50 most impactful by another media service. Has just continued to win and win and win. Was a junior college assistant, turned junior college head coach. Had enormous success at the junior college level at New Mexico JC. As a husband, as a father, as a big-time friend. Always a straight shooter, super really good on the floor, big-time recruiter, underrated recruiter, to be honest. Can't find anybody in the business that'll say anything bad about him. His trophy collection and ring collection continues to add up by the year. Just a high-level person. He will be a Division I head coach. I'll go ahead and say that. But just so well-respected, man. Excited to have him on. I'll let his former colleague, Ross Hodge, chip in on our intro, and then we'll get going.
Sure, you said it all, man. You said it all. Just unbelievable person, good coach, great coach, better person, super positive, man. Rarely has a bad day. And one thing that was fun when we first got to Arkansas State, things were a little different for myself coming from Colorado State. And one of those things where we actually had to share hotel rooms on the road. But looking back on it, it was a blessing because Miller, Tom, and I, we shared rooms. And it was a super fun year that year. And, if you look at his track record of doing things that have never been done, it continues to be that way. When he was at New Mexico Junior College, which was an extremely hard job in the WAC-JAC, did things that had never been done there, probably never be done again. No disrespect to anyone, but that's just how hard it was, what he did there. And then, helping us at Arkansas State and then our first year at North Texas and all the way continuing to what he's doing now. So great person, man. Looking forward to hearing him talk. And I miss seeing his being in his physical presence. It was a really fun 2 years.
And you guys got some hardware that year too, right?
We did, man.
Year 2 for sure.
1,000% due to James Miller. 1,000%. I'll let him get going, but yeah, man, we were down and out. We had actually got off to a decent start that year. Our first year at North Texas, got off to a good start in the league. I think we were like 7-4, and we did not finish the year very good, man. I think we lost like 5 out of our last 7 games. We were 15-7, a little banged up, and we thought our season was over. But the opportunity came to maybe play in the CBI, and everyone in our program, not named James Miller, was in favor of no longer continuing playing basketball that season. But Miller Tom talked everybody into it. He had experience with it at Omaha, and he said it would be a great experience, and there was no reason not to do it. And so he really went out on a ledge and pushed us to do it. We didn't want to do it. We were like 5-year-old kids screaming, kicking, and whining and complaining the whole time. In particular, when the first round matchups got shown, we had to go to Vermillion, South Dakota, to play South Dakota. But again, in true Miller Time fashion, having that foresight, having that positive approach, he willed it, man, to happen. Next thing you know is we win one game, we win the next game. Next thing you know, you're cutting down the nets the night before the national championship game, in the super pit, and kind of helped propel our upward trajectory of our program. So that was that.
Yep. Great stuff. As I like to call him, DJ Khaled, because all he does is win. We'll go ahead and get started, man. So during this quarantine, James, what's one funny thing about yourself or that you learned about your family? I know you have 2 daughters and a wife. So tell us a funny story during the quarantine.
I would say the funniest thing during the quarantine that's taken place, I wouldn't say I've learned or saw, is just that my wife wants me to keep my hair longer and a beard. So that's the mainstay, apparently. I tried to sneak off to the barber about 2 weeks ago, and she was very adamant that only a little bit could come off. So that's something I've learned during the quarantine.
I like it, man. I like it. Tell us a little bit about your family, Jay. I know you're a big family guy.
Yeah, I have a wife, Darlene. We've been married 8 years today. She's been awesome because, like Coach Hodge just said, there's been quite a few moves, especially over the course of the last 5 years, and she's been a trooper to say the least. And then we have 2 kids, Mia, who's 4 years old, and Macy, who's 2. And so they've been awesome. 2 girls. I would assume we're probably done with the party, unfortunately. But knowing my luck, we probably had 3 girls, which would be okay. So like you said, in regards to the COVID, it's been a blessing from that standpoint because I've actually been able to be physically present, the last couple months.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah, I had the great pleasure of probably living, about 20 minutes away from you when I was at UTEP when you first got there. So got to give you a little welcome party and meet the girls and hang out, and our wives got to hit it off and talk about how crazy their husbands are. So that was a good thing. But we actually have the same anniversary, so happy anniversary to you. And we'll do some fun celebrating after the Zoom, I'm sure. Tell the people just a little bit about your story. Like, obviously, from school all the way to when you played back, whenever that was, and tell us about how you got into coaching and a little bit of your journey.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Colorado. I was a mediocre high school player, to be completely honest. Didn't really work at it. One of my best qualities, I think, is I have a pretty good self-awareness for the most part. Knew I wasn't going to the NBA or anything crazy like that. So I just decided to go to college at Colorado State University. Went there, and it was a blessing because I was bored out of my mind my second semester, my freshman year, and decided, hey, I'm gonna coach this little 4th grader group with one of my college roommates, and happened to do that, and that's where the journey really began into coaching because I knew I wanted to do something with sports for a career. So we coached this 4th grade team, love it, know that that's what I want to do. So my sophomore year of college at Colorado State, I actually coached at Rocky Mountain High School. I helped with their freshman team. And then my junior year of college, I actually was the head sophomore coach. So I got head coaching experience my junior year of college. And so I realized at that point in time, I loved high school. I loved being around the kids on a daily basis. But I knew that I wasn't going to want to deal with the parents, specifically the parents, on a daily basis in that capacity where they had so much power to get coaches hired and fired and those things based off the politics of it all. And so decided that, college is where I want to try my hat. So at the time at Colorado State, the head coach's name was Dale Layer, and had a great experience as a student manager under Coach Layer. He was really good at opening his arms to me in the program. And so spent a lot of time my senior year in college up in the office at Colorado State, writing letters for Coach Eberhardt, who was the recruiting coordinator at the time, and getting to learn from, Coach Layer and Coach Bill Peterson, who's at Baylor now. And that's when I knew I really wanted to get into college. And so one day I asked Coach Layer to meet me in the office. He probably thought something was wrong because, why is some nobody in the program wanting to meet with him? And so he met me up there, and I just said to him, I said, hey, Coach, how do I get in your shoes? And he's looked at me kind of funny, and he's like, what do you mean? I said, I want to be, a Division I assistant or a head basketball coach one day. How do I get, to be the head coach of Colorado State 10 or 15 years from now? And so he gave me some great advice for young people out there where he mentioned you got to go somewhere where you can get your master's, and then where you're most importantly going to get the opportunity to coach and the opportunity to recruit. And so I took that and went full speed ahead. A couple of months later, the director of basketball was leaving Colorado State, and he called me in and said, "Hey, James, so-and-so is leaving. Would you have interest in being the director of basketball here at Colorado State?" And obviously that's my alma mater, and I love Fort Collins more than anybody. And I said, no, and he kind of gave me a salty look, and he's like, "Well, why is that?" And I said, "Well, Coach, 2 months ago, you told me I need to go somewhere where I can coach and where I can recruit and get my master's, and I can't do any of that as the director of basketball here." So after that, I did an internship, at Arizona State University for a summer, and learned a lot about the camp life from, the grunt work and college counselor type aspect. And then was blessed when Pat Eberhardt, who was on staff at Colorado State, got a head Division One or head D2 job, at CSU Pueblo, which used to be called Southern Colorado. And so I went and volunteered for Coach Eberhardt after my internship. Worked there for 4 years. My first year as a volunteer, we practiced at 5:45 a.m. every day. It was a first-year program. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea, but what I would do is I would go in, I'd get there for pre-practice at 5:15, which you might as well have said practice started at 5:15. Practice started at 5:45. I'd be in the office. I'd work till 12 or 1 every day, and then I'd go wait tables 4 or 5 nights a week, and while maxing out my student loans and getting my master's. And so that's how I survived the first year. And then after the first year, there was only about 3 players left, and I was the only coach that was left. So I was blessed when Coach Eberhardt, made me the full-time assistant at Pueblo. So that's kind of where I got started. And then from there, after 4 years of being there, I decided to, what a lot of people at the time would say was take a risk and go to New Mexico Junior College and work for a guy named Chris Tift, who's now at Central Michigan as an assistant. And so I worked for him for 3 years. Like Coach Hodge said, New Mexico was pretty well down. My first 2 years at NMJC as an assistant, when Coach Hodge was at Midland, and he was just whooping up on everybody, not only in the league, but in the country. And so I was blessed when Coach Tiff went to TCU after 3 years of being at New Mexico Junior College as an assistant to get promoted to the head coaching job there. So we had good success at New Mexico Junior College. I directly attribute it to the people I worked with, whether it was in administration or my assistants in the program, and then obviously a direct correlation to really good players. So those guys made me look really, really good. And so after 3 years of having pretty good success, going to Hutch a couple times and winning a lot of games and sending a lot of guys to Division I, was able to get on at Nebraska Omaha as an assistant coach. And so, a quick story on that is one of the things I always try to do is do what's best for the kids, do what's best for the players. We had a kid my first year named Devin Patterson when I was the head coach at New Mexico Junior College. We went to Hutch, lost in overtime, probably the worst coaching job of my career, at least the last 4 minutes of the game, where we were up 20 and ended up losing in overtime. But, Devin was a really good point guard who could have come back for us as a sophomore. His mother really wanted him to go to a 4-year school. So I talked Devin into going to Omaha. He didn't want to go. He wanted to stay. My assistant at the time, Brian Laurie, was thinking I was crazy. And I said, I'm doing what's best for the kid. He can go have a 3-year career at Omaha and make a major difference. And his mom will be happy. So fast forward 2 more years, and guess what? It's Devin Patterson's senior year at Omaha. They have a job open up. Pat Eberhardt, who I worked for at CSU Pueblo, is now an assistant at Omaha. And so the stars fell in place, and I had to work hard to get that job. Division I jobs are hard to get no matter what level you're at, and got that job and spent a year at Omaha. And then this is where my wife is really a saint. We're in Omaha for, it's really probably 10 or 11 months total. We just had our oldest in November of that year. And then Coach McCaslin calls and asked if I'd be interested in joining him. He didn't tell me where at the time, and I said, yeah. I got to know Coach Mack really well when I was at New Mexico Junior College as a head coach and as an assistant. And he was true to his word. He always said if he got a job, he'd call me, and he did. And so we, next thing we know, on April 1st, I'm moving down to Jonesboro, Arkansas to go to Arkansas State after he had just gotten a job at Arkansas State. And I had known Coach Hodge fairly well. and developed a relationship with him as well. So I was pumped that he was going, and it was awesome. We moved to Jonesboro. We loved our time there, and a lot like the first year at North Texas, we started off really, really well at Arkansas State. Had some really big wins in the non-conference, and I know that got people's attention on Coach Mack and how good of a coach he is. And 3 or 4 days after the season, we're moving to Denton, Texas. And so it's Omaha for a year, it's Jonesboro for a year, it's Denton now. And so I was lucky enough to be with Coach Hodge and Coach Dowling and Coach Mack at Arkansas State and at North Texas. And then, this situation comes along late into the summer. I think it was like maybe the first week of August, where all of a sudden Coach Jans here has a position open, and just so happens to offer it to me, and so here we are. So I've been here for the last 2 years. But like I said, anybody, it's our anniversary today, so I'll make sure I thank her again when I get off the Zoom. But to go from Hobbs, New Mexico, to Omaha, Nebraska, to Jonesboro, Arkansas, to Denton, Texas, to Las Cruces, New Mexico, all within a 4-year span, can summarize the craziness of the last 4 or 5 years of my life. So we've been blessed here. I love working for Coach Jans. We've won a lot of games. I've learned a lot, but I've also learned a ton from the people I work for and with along the way.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. Definitely awesome story. I'm curious. So you said a lot of great stuff in there, Coach. You talked about how I'm going to come back to the conversation you had with Coach Layer and what made you do that. But really courageous move for you to not only do that, but then to make the move to junior college, because most people would have stayed at the 4-year level. And junior college, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I know you have a real love for junior college and what it's done for you. And you coach some elite players there, even some that are in the NBA now. And so I'm curious, what made you actually have that conversation with Coach Layer that day to really just kind of pick his brain to make the next move?
Well, at the time when you're going up there and I'm writing 200 or 300 letters a day for CSU, and they're thinking they're getting them from Coach Layer and Coach Pearson. Trust me, they're getting them from James Miller, and I have terrible whose name was signed, who was what, And so I thought to myself, I was at probably 99% of the practices, rebounding and doing whatever they wanted me to do. I was writing letters. It wasn't just, hey, I'm going to show up to practice at 2 and leave at 4. I was doing whatever they wanted me to do because I knew I wanted to coach college ball. And I didn't know any other way to do it other than to jump in with those guys, because I didn't know anybody else. Those were going to be my meal ticket. And so it got to the point when we get to January of my senior year, and a couple months down the road, I know I'm going to do an internship somewhere and try to make some connections. And I thought to myself, well, I'm here every single day. I don't ask for anything. I got like 3 shirts. That's about it. Maybe an occasional meal if they could squeeze me one out, and so I just knocked on his door and said, hey, Coach, can I meet with you on Monday? And he's like looking at me like, sure, and I understand now why he thought that way. But, why would I not? To me, everybody needs help along the way. I've been blessed to get a lot of help from some people on this call. And I thought to myself, well, Coach Layer was a good guy, and he is a good guy, and he's a man of integrity. So I knew that he wouldn't steer me wrong. And even I knew that he would take 10 minutes out of his day to try to help a young guy, and he did. And I'm blessed for that.
Yeah, no, I think it goes back to you even. One last moves. I know when you moved to Las Cruces and I was in El Paso, we got to hang out some and even got to go to your oldest birthday party and have some fun. So credit to your wife. Hopefully you guys have a great celebration tonight, and hopefully this COVID has been great, like you said. We'll switch to New Mexico State, man. Just kind of get straight to it, man. What you've been to a lot of places. You've done a lot of winning. What makes that place so special at New Mexico State?
New Mexico State's special because the support from the people in town, the people in the community, in the city of Las Cruces is really, really cool. I haven't been in Division I for a terribly long time. a lot of places I've worked don't have great support from the outside standpoint, whether it's within the town or the athletic department. Here, that's not the case. What we lack in maybe resources or money, we have in support. Everybody in town loves the Aggies. We're the biggest show in town. They're what drives the city from November to hopefully late March, early April. And so it's a special place. It's a really cool community, great people, and every single night, regardless of who we're playing in the Pan Am, they're gonna come and they're gonna be loud and they're gonna support us, and they really gravitate towards supporting our guys, and they take an interest in it. So that's a double-edged sword sometimes. I think Coach Jans has told the story a couple times where I think last year we were down like 9 with 10 minutes left to go, and we're still in the game, and you hear people in the stands like getting reckless and saying crazy stuff, and he's looking up in the stands like, hold on now, we still got some game left. We end up winning the game, but with that being said, like there's a blessing and a curse to that. But I look at it it's an extreme positive, because I've also coached places where they could care less what your wins and losses are and the success of your guys and the support. So that's what makes this place really, really special in my mind.
Yeah, it makes it a place where when you go to recruit and you show the picture, like the picture in your background right now, talk about the energy in the building. There's not a lot of that kind of thing that they can sell. You can sell a lot of things, but when you can get that kind of support and really big time coaches to play for, you definitely have a winning formula. So yeah, you talked about your work ethic, man, from all the SU Pueblo, all the way to Colorado State as a manager. I'm curious, other than his work ethic, because that goes without being said, along with yours, what do you think are 3 things that make Coach Jans so special, so elite at what he does?
Yeah, I mean, the first one that you just touched on is he's relentless. I mean, he's relentless in all aspects of our program, whether it's with our guys and coaching, film study. He still prepares and works like he's an assistant coach. He doesn't work like he's making as much money as he is, or he's had the success he's had. You would think he's on the last year of his contract, and he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure we're successful. So he's relentless is the first thing that sticks out to me. The second thing that sticks out to me with Coach is he's not weak in any area. He's good in every single area. So I've worked for guys that they're not necessarily bad in an area, but they're really good offensively, and maybe they're not as strong defensively, or vice versa. Or, hey, they're really good X's and O's tactician, but they're not good on at recruiting. With Coach, he can do it all. I mean, he's good offensively. He's good defensively. He recruits. Like I said, he's relentless in his work ethic. He's a spitting image of what I try to strive to be with my career as I move up. I want to follow in his path and try to do it like him and mimic him as best as possible, because he has been so successful. And then, the third thing to that, building on that, is even though he's really, really good at all aspects of running a program and being a basketball coach, he still is evolving on a daily basis to get better. And I think as coaches, we all are in situations over the course of time where we put blinders on and we're not getting better just because whatever we're doing is working, where it's obvious what he's been doing pretty much his whole career has worked and worked at a high level, but he still every day is challenging himself and us to get better and holding us to a high standard. So there's a lot of other things he's good at. I really honestly can say there's not anything that he's not good at, and I mean that wholeheartedly. But those 3 things I think make him what he is, and that's an elite basketball coach.
Yeah, he's one of the elite basketball coaches in the country. I've had the fortunate/unfortunate opportunity to coach against him. I've known him for a long time, and definitely always have been a big fan. He recruited our guys when I worked for Ross Hodge in junior college, so hats off to him. And I would imagine that people in the league will be glad when he is at another place so they can actually win some more conference games. But shout out to Coach Jans on that. Tell us about the staff, Coach. You guys obviously have just continued to win and be really dominant in your league. And it's not just about the head coach. It's not just about the associate head coach. It's not just about the players. But you guys, just from knowing you guys, have just a great, rare chemistry as a staff. How do you guys do that? Tell us about your staff.
So before I talk about the the current staff I'm on, I've been blessed because every school that I worked at, I haven't been on a bad staff. And so that makes it so much easier everywhere we've been, family. And I mean, because we spend so much time together. If you're on a bad staff or you have a rotten egg, a rotten apple on the staff, I feel bad for you. But so with this staff, you know, you have a great balance of guys who can do everything because we've all been in junior college. We've all been at the lower levels. And we really are selfless. Like, we don't care who signs the players. We don't care who gets the credit. And I think, like Coach Hodge taught me a couple of years ago, I guess it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago, we are each other's biggest advocates. And so, you know, Dave Anwar, who's a vet in our profession, is honestly probably one of the best, if not the best guy I've ever worked with. He has a heart of gold. He's really good at every aspect of coaching basketball and within the program. And he loves the kids, man. He loves the kids. And then Corey Barker, who is elite at everything. He's so well connected in our profession. He's as genuine a guy as you're ever going to come across, and he's selfless as well, and does such a great job with our guys. And then we have a director of basketball named Casey Owens, who actually was an assistant with the Lakers at one point in time as a G League head coach. I mean, he's a phenomenal X and O's guy, and he brings a different perspective from that role that's been very helpful for us. And you know, again, G League head coach, been in the NBA, Coach Kobe Bryant as an assistant, was with the Lakers. I mean, he was in that organization for 8 to 10 years, I think it was, in some capacity. And he comes here and he has no ego. He doesn't care about credit. He doesn't try to pretend he's somebody who's not. Like, he just wants to coach ball and help us win and do whatever it takes. And then Sean McClurg, who's our video guy, who, you know, we call him Diddy. Diddy is a younger guy in our profession. He's elite, man. He's gonna be really, really good. And you would think he's 35 with what he's able to do, and he's I think he's 24, 25. Like, we're always like, dang, how old are you again? Like, that's crazy. He's really, really good. So I think we have a great staff and coaches. Coach Jans takes great pride in hiring people, and he takes, you know, great pride in doing it really well. And he's put together a staff where it's a bunch of guys that, again, like I said, don't care who gets credit. Who will do whatever it takes to help our team win and help our guys be successful on and off the floor, and who embrace, you know, what New Mexico State's about and what coach is about, and really want to maximize the resources we have to us and put our best foot forward every single day. So it's just great people. I mean, Burton, it's great people, man, and we go to the lake together, we hang out together. Again, it all comes down to you spend so much time together in our profession. And I can truly say I love all those guys in their own way, and we get along. We're friends, and therefore creating, you know, a true family atmosphere.
Yeah, and part of Jans's skill set and his strength that you said, like you talked about, there's so many different things. And just to give him another credit, I think just identifying talent in staff and knowing how to let people do what they do well, hiring guys that fit in him, as far as being hungry and but also being selfless, and also just being about winning, you know, because at the end of the day, it's about winning. And I think the fact you guys all want to win, and of course I know Anwar well, and Corey is one of my close friends, and got to know your ops guy as well. So yeah, you guys have a big time staff, and credit to you guys on that too, man. So there's no secret to when you win that you have that kind of chemistry, but credit to you guys for being able to keep building on it, because sometimes when you win, it can go another way, and you guys continue to build it. So curious, break down a few things for us. What's something you love about these 4 categories at New Mexico State? Offensively, what's something you love that you do? Defensively, what's something you love? Recruiting, and also culture. You don't have to give us all the secrets, because, you know, you got some opponents.
I always ask Coach, can I share anything? So yeah, we ain't hiding anything.
Give us a little bit of the secret sauce, just a little bit.
Well, offensively, look, coaches gives our guys a lot of freedom, and I think that's key, right? So our guys know what a good shot is and a bad shot is. They know don't turn the ball over. They know, you know, all the take good shot. I mean, they understand that. But at the end of the day, he gives them a lot of freedom offensively. He corrects them in practice. on things that we want to do differently. But when it gets to the games, like, he's going to let those guys let it fly. He's not going to get on them about maybe taking a quick shot. If it's open, it's a good shot. He wants them to let it fly. And we play unselfish from the offensive end. So that's the thing with freedom and being selfless. I like about us offensively. Defensively, I like the way that we scout, which I'll talk about obviously in a little bit, and how we go about that. I think that's something I'll always take with me wherever I go. But I love the way we scout, and I love the attention to detail that we put within the scouting and the preparation, even in the preseason going into the season. So defensively, I think Coach has a great plan and has a great idea of how he implements that plan, and I love it. I really do. From the culture standpoint, I really like how Coach has got a bunch of guys to buy in on a consistent basis. And, here we have a lot of transfers, whether it's junior college, grad transfers, et cetera. He gets those guys to buy into winning, and then how that ultimately is going to help them achieve their goals. We, not this past year, but the year before, when we were full strength and didn't have very many injuries, we had a rotation of 11 guys. We played 11 guys every single game. Now, obviously, some games, certain guys are going to play more or less, just depending on the matchups and who we were playing. But we had a rotation of 11 guys. And some games we played 12 or 13 guys, and we're playing quality opponents. I don't think you can get teams to do that anymore and guys to do that anymore if they don't truly love each other and are selfless and they don't play for each other. So from the culture aspect, I really appreciate that about Coach and what he's instilled here and what we have going on. And then from the recruiting aspect, I just think that the reason it's been really good for us is we get old, we stay old, we get guys with a chip on their shoulder, and we recruit to New Mexico State. This place has always done really well with transfers, and even guys maybe that had second chance or third chance even sometimes. And Coach is really good with those guys at not holding grudges for what they've done in the past, and but still holding them accountable to a crazy high standard. And that's what those guys want when it's all said and done. So those are kind of the four things that stick out to me in those categories.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, so tell us this, man. I know you're super humble, and you guys are humble and still working to continue to do championships. I hate that the COVID happened. You guys didn't get a chance to go back dancing. But the question is, so for your league, you guys have really not lost very many games. So in league play, tournament play, what do you think it is, and even Coach Jans the year before you got there, what do you think it is that's enabled New Mexico State to be so dominant under Coach Jans? Again, without giving too much secret sauce, but we know he holds them to a high standard. We know you guys have had high-level dudes, but what do you think it is?
So, the foundation of the program here is built on what a lot of people probably try to build it on, and that's obviously defending, being great on the glass on both ends, rebounding, and then having some toughness. And so it's not one of those deals like if you go into our locker room or you walk around our facilities, we don't have a whole bunch of slogans. We don't have a whole bunch of quotes. That's not his deal. It's not what he wants it to be about. He wants us to function in that way and truly be our foundation for success. So everything we do in our program is along those lines and has those things in mind, everything. So, again, with the culture and that aspect, and then having those things in mind, it's carried on that, okay, now we're getting players that we're probably not supposed to get, high-level players. Maybe they transferred or maybe something happened, or junior college guys that they've seen, hey, look at the success those guys previous to them have had, and I can go do that there too. And so, I think building on that, just with Coach, he's so, I go back to relentless, man. He's relentless with everything he does because I know he doesn't want to fail, and I know he doesn't want to let people down, and I know he wants our guys to believe that he's done everything he possibly can to prepare them and himself and our staff to be successful. So that's why I think, the program has been so successful, and that's why it's going to continue to be successful as long as he's here. It doesn't matter who's working for him or who's shooting three balls for him or dunking for him. He's just so good at what he does and he does it the right way, I just don't see it deteriorating at all.
No, yeah, that makes sense. And he's so consistent at it too. You touched on something that I want to ask one last question basketball-wise before we kind of move to the next topic. But to have that high of a competitive environment, to have that great of a culture where the standard is high, to have that many good players, how do you think he's been able to have such depth to play 11 guys and have a rotation like that? Because it's not common in college basketball, and I've seen it up close, and it makes it hard to scout. It makes it hard to really know who to key in on, and it makes those guys to where, they almost numbers, which great slogan, but not easy to actually make happen in real life. So how do you think that's been able to be something as an extreme weapon for you guys?
Well, the first thing that always helps is winning, because if somebody comes into the office and complains when you're 25-5, or you're undefeated in the WAC, or you just get done beating Mississippi State or something along those lines, they just look like an idiot, to be honest. And it's very, very simple to see how selfish they are. And so I think when you win, you're able to do some things differently within your program, and Coach has been able to do that. Now, he's going to get any type of selfishness out of our program. He's not going to go for that from the standpoint of, what's going to help us win and lose when it really comes down to it. And so for him, and it's a credit to our guys as well, they've, again, bought into winning, and they see what happens when they win. And so, for instance, a guy like Trevelin Queen, who, didn't have a great league year. He came at the break. It was, it was a crazy time last year as his junior. And then all of a sudden down the stretch, he gets, 25 in the championship game in the WAC, and then he goes and gets 15 against Auburn in the NCAA tournament. Not only are we winning, but now he's producing on a higher platform. And now, hey, some mock drafts are saying he'll get drafted in the second round. So I think our guys see that, and they've seen other guys come through the program, whether it was before Coach was here with guys like Pascal Siakam, or when Coach was here with guys like Jameer Jones and Zach Lofton. And so he said, hey, this is a formula for success. And we all know when you win, it just validates how you're going about doing things. And so once that's happened, our guys will continue to drink that Kool-Aid, so to speak, and keep going down that road and not trying to deviate from what we've done to be successful. So.
No, it's big time. Great answer, Coach. Appreciate you sharing that. So now we'll shift gears to a little bit of a heavy topic, and you can kind of keep this brief or as long as you want, but have seen the local media in your area and even you guys' social media page retweet and post about your team and the collectiveness that they continue to have even during this time with the social injustice and the racial inequality and all the kind of uproar that's going on. It seems like it's really powerful. Even Coach Jans, I believe, was out there protesting peacefully with the team with masks on to stay COVID-19 social distant. But just curious, man, tell us a little bit about how your team has responded during this, or what you guys have maybe done with your team, or anything that you think has been a cool thing during all this time.
Yeah, so I think, everybody has different opinions on the topic, right? And everybody has different feelings involved. Coach has done a really good job with our guys and letting them know how much he supports them and how wrong he thinks some of the things that have happened, not only over the course of the last couple of months, but in our lifetime that are going on. So, we did get a chance to go peacefully protest with our guys. Coach is big on action. He's not big on tweeting. He's not big on talking about it. He's big on action. And I think our program is big on action. It goes back to, we don't have 50 quotes in the locker room. We don't have a whole bunch of slogans we're always talking about. It's just, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is who we are. This is, who we are at our core and our foundation. And so with Coach, he said, I want to make sure our guys know that we're going to support them. Well, how do you do that? And how do we actually try to, instill change in our world and making sure it's a better place for our guys, and probably more importantly, the kids, their kids, And so we went out and peacefully protested, and that was Coach's idea. Our guys really appreciate that situation. They appreciate that about Coach because he always is very clear with them that he's going to support them when they're doing the right things. And so I think moving forward for our program, as we get everybody back on campus and the talks that we've had, is, okay, let's make sure that this topic doesn't become stale. Let's make sure that once we stop seeing tweets about it, or we start, seeing it die off, so to speak. What can we continue to do to put things into action, and what can we continue to do to really focus on real change? And so, we've brainstormed. We haven't come up with what that exactly is, but we've brainstormed as a team. And I think for us and for Coach, it's making sure that we follow through with this, because unfortunately in our lifetime we've seen a lot of things like the last few weeks happen, but this time feels different because it feels like there actually will be some change that come from it. And I think that's, as a program, and as Coach Jansby, the head coach of our program, and us as assistants, we're going to continue to live by it. We're going to continue to put it into action, whatever that looks like moving forward. And the biggest thing, supporting our guys as long as they're doing the right things. Because like I said to one of our guys the other day, hey, that's great that you have issues with what's going on right now. Okay, now what are you going to do to change it? Because just talking about it is not going to help. It's what are we going to do? Are we going to go protest again? Let's go. Are you going to go down and meet with the police department and tell them why you're scared when you're driving around town? Let's do it, And so those things I think we're going to instill in our guys, and coaches already started to do that, to give them a platform to actually, instill change in the world, because that's really what needs to happen with this.
Absolutely. That's big time. Salute to you guys, how you're approaching it. Hopefully more programs will follow what you guys are doing. Just support your guys, have real conversations, have support, but also, look for real change and look for those solutions, which is big time. So credit to you guys again for that, man. And thanks for sharing. Just kind of going back, man, to your career, if you had to tell yourself, younger James Miller, a young guy, Colorado State or at Pueblo, what advice would you give him? Obviously, whatever you've done to this point has been successful. So, but there's probably something along the way you're like, you know what? I probably want to tell myself this.
Yeah, I think as a young guy, I would have told myself, knowing what I know now, to be conscious in making meaningful relationships with and networking as you come up through the profession. I think we're all told and taught to work hard, put your head down, don't ask questions, do what you're asked, be respectful, etc. And I think realistically, if I would have probably been a little bit better, especially the first 4 or 5 years of my career, of being more intent in developing those personal relationships and doing it with a purpose, then I think I would have been, I don't want to say further ahead now, but I think that would have helped me in my growth in our profession and just in our ability. So that would be the first thing I'd probably tell myself. And then the second thing is, like you talked about earlier, Burton, is I'm a big advocate for junior college. If I had to do it all over again, I would have tried to go straight to junior college from my undergrad and when I graduated from Colorado State. Now, I wouldn't trade my experience working for Coach Eberhardt for anything, because he's a major reason why I am where I am and helping me establish my foundation as a coach. But for me, junior college is such a every young guy I talk to, they say, hey, Coach, I want to break through in the profession. What should I do? I said, go to junior college. Go to junior college, coach, recruit, get your master's like Coach Larry told me. Go get you some high-level players. You're gonna be able to network with guys that are recruiting those players. You're going to be able to go get players from guys that you're going to be recruiting from for the rest of your career. And so, realistically, I worked at CSU Pueblo for 4 years and probably 6 months at New Mexico Junior College when we were mediocre basketball team in the WACJAC. I made more connections there in 6 months than I did in 4 years. So it's meaningful relationships to me. That's how I'm built. It's not just, hey, write letters and fake my way through it. That's not my deal. But at the same time, if I was more conscious and deliberate and someone would have said, hey, get your master's, coach, recruit, and this is why it would help you, and being more deliberate with each move I made from a coaching standpoint, then, hey, who knows where I would be at this point. But again, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, and credit to you, because I think you did a good job of that without even doing it intentionally, to be honest. I think majority of your closest friends, and even our relationship we talked about before this Zoom started, was back when you were in JUCO, and just hanging out and having genuine relationships. I think because you're such a genuine person, you've been able to do that anyway, but you may have done it more intentionally had you go back and been able to tell yourself. So that's good. You talked a little bit about why you love junior college. So I'll ask a two-part question, and then we'll move to one more question and get to basketball. But what is it that you love about junior college so much? I feel like you're one of the real advocates of junior college and just have a different kind of love and passion and pride for junior college. I know it's what raised you in the business, but also what do you think allowed you to be so successful as a head coach? Because, you know, like Coach Hodge spoke about earlier, I mean, you were very Coach Jans-like, or even Coach McCasson-like, whatever coach you want to choose, is really elite and successful at winning at a high level at a place that wasn't New Mexico State, where it has all the support. So what do you think enabled you to have such success? And then why do you love junior college so much?
Well, I love junior college so much because, to me, all of a majority of the politics are out of basketball. It's basketball in its purest form. You know, it's guys that are doing everything they can to change their circumstances, typically, to provide for themselves and their families, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years after the fact. So I really felt like junior college, why I loved it so much, was I was changing kids' lives. I really believe that. And with all that being said, probably was saving some lives and then was helping them reach their goals, you know? And so, you know, guys that were literally, as one guy told me one time, like, Coach, you just got me fresh off the couch. And then, you know, 2 years later, he's playing in the ACC. Those things don't happen if he's not in junior college, you know? What's up, Kim? Pulling an Anwar, showing me the nostrils. So that's why I love junior college. I mean, I literally felt like on a daily basis we were saving lives, man. And I really felt like we instilled some values and some foundations in them to be successful, not only as basketball players, obviously as students, but then, you know, fathers and good husbands and those sorts of things. So that's why I love junior college. I mean, I would have stayed if Hobbs, New Mexico wasn't Hobbs, New Mexico, which I loved Hobbs. If it was in wherever else, somewhere in Florida, I probably never would have left junior college because I knew that I was making a difference. And then the reason we had success, in my opinion, was like I touched on a little bit earlier, I had great people that I worked with, whether it was from the administration standpoint or assistant coach standpoint. Brian Laurie and Sean Gutting, who's now the head coach at Casper Community College. Those guys were great. And then obviously we had really good players, you know, in 3 years as a head coach, had 20-some guys go Division I. So, you know, you're only as good as your players. That's just reality. We all think we're great coaches, and we all think we're the next John Wooden. But the reality of it is, if you don't have players, and you know, you're not going to be that successful. So, you know, with that being said, I thought we did a great job when I was a head coach, and when we had a program at New Mexico Junior College of holding guys accountable. I thought we were pretty relentless in our work ethic. We worked hard. We played hard. We had a good time. And then I thought, as a head coach, looking back on it, I never made my assistants or our assistants feel like they were going to be berated for making mistakes. I knew that they were giving their all. And so when they made mistakes, I tried to empower them to continue to find the solutions, as opposed to trying to berate them or belittle them or give them you know, roundhouse side jabs when they weren't expecting it, and holding grudges against them. And I attribute that a lot to, you know, working for Coach Tiff there and working for Pat Everhart. Those two guys helped mold me in that aspect, because I was a young guy and they allowed me to make a lot of mistakes. And I didn't feel like I was always having to look over my shoulder. Now, did they hold me accountable and make sure that they let me know when I messed up? Yeah, they did. They definitely did. But with that being said, I think I took that as into the head coach, and I thought it was pretty successful for us.
We'll do one more, Coach. You say is the why you coach, and what would you like for your legacy to be when you're done coaching? And then we'll open up for questions from the rest of the.
So my why when I first got started was to, you know, hey, I wanted to be a Division I assistant. That was my why. Why did I want to do that? Because I knew I didn't want to do anything else but coach ball. And my why was, okay, how do I get back to Fort Collins, Colorado, and be sitting over there on that sideline, whether it was next to Coach Layer or somebody else, and getting to enjoy Moby Arena in the great city of Fort Collins, Colorado. That was my why when I started. And then as I went on and developed meaningful relationships with guys, it was to help, like I said, change their lives. Some guys need a little more help than others, and that's fine. But obviously, we all know you need to have a degree in order to be successful. So that turned into my why. And then I think now it's still along those lines, but now my why is my family, to continue to support them by doing what I love to do and something I don't really consider a job most days. And then still being able to help young men reach their goals and their dreams while, hopefully giving them some knowledge to be better, like I said, fathers and husbands, and, so on and so forth. So the why to me is the people I work with on a daily basis. I don't want to let those guys down. It's the student athletes I work with on a daily basis. I want to do everything I can to help them. And then at the end of the day, for my family, is making sure I do everything to give them and my girls and my wife the best life possible.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's awesome. It shows in how you do your business. It shows in your success to this point. And like I said earlier on the call, I think more and more people are starting to take notice of a guy who super humble, super willing to give the shirt off his back to help somebody else, but also really, really talented and really hardworking and skilled at what he does. So credit to you, man. Glad you came on. We'll open up for questions from the room. I know we got another former coaching mate, Jareem Dowling, in the building. I'm sure he'll have something good for you, but we'll open up and then we'll go straight to basketball. Reem, you got something for you, man? You took it off mute like you're about to do something, man.
I know I got to take off my face mask. I'm in the gym. I'm trying to get in shape like Miller, so I got to wear a face mask. So it was kind of technical difficulties. But Dream Dowling Conference USA champs, North Texas here. Coach Miller, first off, I want to say happy anniversary to you and your wife. She deserves a medal for dealing with you every single day of the week. And shout out to my nieces, Mia and Macy. Coach Miller, why are you so passionate about what you do and the people you work with? I mean, I feel as though you're one of the Mount Rushmore loyalist guys I've ever worked with. You definitely on my Mount Rushmore. Why do you, just be a good person even when nobody's looking? And I've only known you 4 or 5 years now, but why do you take so much pride in doing that versus stepping on the next man to get to the top of the ladder?
So I'll definitely tell the wife you said happy anniversary, and I think she's thankful for me, so I'll just leave it at that. And I'll tell your nieces hello. But for me, I think in answering that question, I always try to treat people like I would want to be treated. And so therefore, you have to have some empathy in how you interact with people and some understanding. The way I was raised in a diverse, very unique situation, I think has led me to love everybody, all shapes, colors, size, and what everything in between, the full end of the spectrum. That's just how I've always been, because that's all I've ever known. And I think I've carried that into coaching. So I try to be understanding as much as I can be. And at the end of the day, I don't enjoy talking about myself. Like, I enjoy talking ball. I enjoy talking about, like myself from a standpoint of, hey, I'm going fishing and look at this big fish I caught. But I don't enjoy talking about myself from a standpoint of, being conceited and or what quote unquote I have done. I don't enjoy that. So like you, Coach Dowling and Coach Hodge and other people on this call that I know, I like to celebrate the success of the people around me and the people I work with and the guys that I've coached. To me, that's more important than what I have done. And I just that's just how I've always been. And I think that's how I'll always be, to be honest.
Great question, Coach Reem. Appreciate you jumping on and overcoming your difficulty, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you, Coach Burton, for what you're doing for everybody in coaching basketball.
Appreciate you, homie. Appreciate you. It's our anniversary too, but I won't tell my wife you said so. It's cool.
My fault, my fault. Happy anniversary to you too, your beautiful wife, man. And my niece is over there too, man. Happy anniversary. You two need to hurry up and end this call and take your wives out somewhere.
It's coming soon, man. It's not quite time yet. It gotta get dark outside so it can be romantic. You know, I got that from James. He said that before he got on the call. We'll take a couple more questions before we have Coach. We watch Coach present some basketball stuff.
Coach Miller, Derek Brooks, Merchant Marine Academy. You mentioned being a sophomore at Colorado State and texting one of the assistants to ask him to meet you and to answer questions on how you could get to, you know, where he was in 15 years. So my question is, how have the mentors during your career helped you progress and get to where you are now? And then the second part is, do you mentor young coaches yourself?
Hey, Derek. So the mentors for me obviously have a major hand in why I'm where I'm at right now. I think that, you know, like Ross Hodge on the call, you know, he single-handedly taught me what it's like to be an associate head coach. And I consider him not only he's not old enough to be a mentor, but more of a peer and a really good friend and someone that I really respect because he does such a good job. But the guys that I first worked for, Pat Eberhardt, Chris Tift, those guys, man, they gave me the foundation. They taught me what was right in our profession, what was wrong, and how to go about things both right and wrong way. And that led me to the next portion of kind of my career, I think, thus far. And that's where I got to meet guys like Coach Hodge, guys like Steve Lutz from Purdue or Lou Godino, who, you know, had a really big hand in helping me get this job. And so what I've learned is, you know, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, and something I wish I would have known or someone just would have told me, because I'm pretty good at following directions when it makes sense, is I really would have been more diligent in developing meaningful relationships, and it would still be organically, but I would put myself out there more. That's not really my style. Again, I don't like talking about myself. I'm not going to go up and just chat up somebody I don't know. It's not what I do. And so my network, my guys that are mentors, they gave me the foundation. Now what I would say is my network, who is more of my peers now, even though those guys are still mentors to me, my peers are now the ones that are continuing to, you know, shape and mold me in certain ways. And so those guys have done a really good job. What was the second part of the question? Because I got the rambling and I forgot. I'm sorry.
Oh, do you mentor young coaches?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. So sorry about that. I do everything I can to try to help young guys, because we all have been in those shoes. And I was a Division II assistant, so I couldn't do anything for anybody. So we all know what that's like when you're in a place where you can't help others. Then they just they don't go out of the way to help you. I'll never forget, like, I think it was probably the first year I was coaching, and Sean Vandiver, who was at Wyoming, he had a conversation with me, like, and acted like I mattered. He probably doesn't think anything of that. Nothing came from that conversation, but I was like, damn, there's a Division I guy talking to me. I'm just a Division II volunteer assistant coach. Like, you know, so I still remember those things. So I've tried to do everything I can with young guys that I know that want to be college basketball coaches, to give them as much advice, whether they use it or not, that's on them, to help them become successful. And so I take, honestly, that's probably one thing I take great pride in is, in Coach Burton asked about, okay, what's a why? Like, I like helping people. Not only do I like helping our players, but I like helping people, you know, reach their dreams. And so I think I've done a pretty good job of that. I'm going to continue to try to do a good job of mentoring young people. And like I should have said at the beginning of this call, like, I want to talk ball with people that I don't know. I want to develop relationships with people I don't know. That's important to me. And I try to be as accessible to everybody when I do Zooms or conferences or whatever as I can be, because at the end of the day, you never know. I might say to somebody, hey, you should try this, and that might change the course of their career, because honestly, that's what happened to me. If I didn't go to junior college, who knows where I'd be? I'd probably still be in Division II, to be honest with you. And there'd be nothing wrong with that, but that wasn't what the trajectory I wanted my career to go. So
Good question, Coach Brooks. Appreciate it. Coach Miller, another great answer. We'll take one or two more, then we'll get to hoops.
What's up, Coach?
What's up, Dre?
Nothing much. I just wanted to ask you, man, just kind of your transition from being a head coach, junior college, to Division I assistant. Almost some advice in a way, just kind of things that helped you, and some maybe the struggles and stuff you went through trying to be better at that as a D1 assistant.
Right. So listen.
And for those that don't know, Coach Owens was a really good coach, head coach at Western Texas Junior College in the WAC-JAC League. Now he's an assistant at Sam Houston State, doing really great things, and did really great things at Western Texas too. So go ahead, Coach.
So when I left New Mexico Junior College, I was 32. 32 years old. And Coach Hodge will tell you, because I had conversations with him, when I went to Omaha, I really struggled going from being a head coach to back to an assistant, because the way I tried to do things at New Mexico as a head coach didn't necessarily mean it was right or wrong, but the way I tried to do things was like just all in, like I'm going crazy. Like I still thought I was going to be the head coach at Duke when I left New Mexico Junior College. Like that's reality. And so I was trying to attack every single day like that when I got to Omaha, and that wasn't reality, right? And so you go back from calling your own shots, calling your own timeouts, doing your own drill work, things like that. And it wasn't an issue as far as like my I wouldn't say it was like, oh, I'm better than this, or it wasn't an ego thing. It was just very difficult when I thought we could be better at things that I thought we should be better at, right? And so working for Coach Hanson at Omaha was great, because I think he allowed me to make some of those idiotic mistakes, young, dumb mistakes. And I have good self-awareness typically when I know I'm making those mistakes. And he allowed me to make those under his watch. And I think that helped, make me a better coach in the long run. Maybe not at the time, but it really did. But it was hard for me. It really was. That first year, going from being a head coach in junior college, going to Omaha, where I loved it. We had good success. We won. We went to the CBI. It was a program that just got to Division I. We had a lot of success that year, but at the same time, if you would have asked me at the time, and even today, like I thought we should go to the NCAA tournament with that team. That's just how I'm wired. Like let's maximize everything we got. And so I think Coach Hanson, like I said, did a really good job of letting me make some young dumb mistakes. And he's so even keeled and so mild mannered anyway. So it was like a perfect match. I'm the young dumb guy thinking I know everything, and he's just laid back, and, he let me do those, make those mistakes. And again, I think he did a great job of, giving me a voice and allowing me to do some things when he didn't have to. And I appreciate him for that. But to answer your question, Dre, it was hard. It was really, really hard. Now, moving forward, as I've continued to probably mature, just to be honest with you, and not only mature as a basketball coach, but just as a person, and not be so emotional about winning and losing and those things. I think it's shown its head as I move forward, because now I look back at Omaha, and if I just would have approached some of those things differently, I probably would have been much more successful and been able to help whoever my head coach was at the time. And I think, Ross told me when we worked, maybe it was at Arkansas State at the time, and he could tell I was probably getting frustrated on some things. And, he would tell me, like, don't ride the wave. Don't ride the emotional roller coasters of a season. Don't ride the emotional roller coasters of a practice. But when you're a head coach, you're used to doing that because it's your program. And so I think that's always stuck with me, and I've gotten much better at that as I move forward, to not allow my emotion from the standpoint of jumping on the roller coaster and, oh, shoot, now we're up. Oh, no, we just lost. Now it's the end of the world. Oh, okay, now we just won. Now I don't do that anymore. I'm usually pretty even-keeled by nature. So I think that's helped as well as I moved on too.
I guess I'll ask one. How you doing, James?
What's up, Adam? How are you, man?
Chilling, man. Chilling. Just
I like it.
Little one here.
Like it.
Yeah, life's happening. But no, my deal is just thinking ahead. And obviously, when you become a head coach, what's your thoughts on building a program? You think the transfer route, having experienced it there, or you building it? You're going JUCO route. You got JUCO experience. You're going high school kids, transfer portal. Your first. How are you? What just your mind? Just how are you going to build a program? What do you think You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to construct it? Where are you going first? Where you going second? And how would you kind of do that based on your experiences?
So, two-part answer, Adam. The first part is depends on where the job is and what the dynamics of the job are. Okay, obviously, I'll probably never be the head coach at a Harvard or a Stanford because that's not my background, right? But you have to understand where you are, too, at the same time. If I got the job at whatever school that's a private institution and they're not going to take a lot of transfers, okay, it's going to be a little bit different look from the standpoint of we're not going to go in there and be able to take 5 junior college guys. But the reality of it is for everybody on this call moving forward is gone are the days of building programs. It's not going to happen anymore. Now you can build cultures and instill cultures, but as far as if you're at the mid and low major level, moving forward, you're not going to have guys in your program for 3 or 4 years unless they're transfers that transferred to your place as a freshman or a sophomore. And so with me, whenever, knock on wood, hopefully it happens one day where I'm a head coach, it's going to be the transfer route. I feel like that's been my whole career, and it's going to work pretty well for us moving forward because come next January when they pass that rule, and it's going to pass no matter what people say, you're going to have to build your programs with a junior college mentality of a year-to-year structure. And that doesn't mean that you can't go get transfers that you're going to have in your program for 2 or 3 years. But the reality of it is if you take high school guys and you're at UTSA, as you know, and you got a guy that's averaging 20 a game, then every high major in the country is trying to get him out of there. And guess what? From here on out, they're not going to have to sit out anymore. And so the reality of it is for I think the majority of the people on this call and a majority of the programs in the country, we're all going to have to function year to year. That's just reality. And so the transfer route to me, even at the high major level, is going to be much more prevalent because it's going to be a year-to-year deal as opposed to, 3 years from now, we're going to be really good. Because at the end of the day, the way the transfer is right now, imagine what it's going to be like when there's no stipulations on having to sit out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And obviously, your experience being a JUCO coach will help because I don't know what it's like having to recruit 8 guys in a year.
Yeah, that's normal. 8 guys, that's nothing. That's easy for us, man.
That's what I'm saying. It's craziness, man.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, Miller time.
Anybody else?
Just to kind of segue off Adam's question, because I know you and I have talked about it like off camera quite a bit, and you've had the opportunity to be part of these seminars and educational opportunities as far as the next step. Maybe share anything or just a couple things that you or myself probably weren't thinking about 3 years ago, that maybe some of these guys can go ahead and start thinking about now, as it pertains to not even the Division I jump, but then the assistant jump, but then the next part, like the head coaching piece. I know you and I have talked about that a lot because a lot of times the basketball part is the easiest part. The next part is all the other things. So not to put you on spot, but even if it's just 1 or 2 things that you've taken away from those things, I think are good.
So I've been fortunate to go to, I guess, 1 virtually, and then I went to 2 separate conferences last year. And, they're both were centered on, all 3 have been centered on, becoming a head coach in Division I. So, what Coach Hodge just asked, we talk about a lot. And I try to give 2 or 3 things that I think maybe we all don't think about because we're so ingrained in just trying to do a good job where we're at. But the first thing that I wish somebody would have told me a couple years ago, and that's becoming more and more, obvious to me that's important, is reaching out to search firm guys in developing, again, genuine relationships with them. It goes back to what I said, someone I wish would have told me 3 years ago, like Coach just said, and even back to when I was getting started. I mean, you need to, if you really have goals and aspirations of being a head coach, especially in Division I, but even in Division IIs, because they're getting involved in searches now, is you need to have some relationships and familiarity with those guys in the search firms, because they're a major player and they're not going to go anywhere. And that's something I don't think about very often in my daily life. So that would be one thing. The second thing is, obvious, just make sure you do a good job where you're at, but be calculated with the moves that you're going to make to, other institutions. You know, when I was leaving North Texas, a lot of people said to me, why would you leave North Texas to go to New Mexico State? But I also knew what was going to come with that was a different role. I was going to be the Ross Hodge of our staff at some point in time. And so I knew that that would help, you know, put me in a position where I have people that'll vouch for me at New Mexico State that'll say, our AD will call another AD and say, hey, James Miller's ready to be a head coach at your place. And so if you don't have that role of where you currently are, I would say, you know, the second thing would be is to look for that role if you feel like that's what you want to do and trying to be a head coach. You know, three, I would say is, you know, probably, again, networking with people that can help you get to those spots. You know, they always talk about having agents and people that try to help you maneuver in these situations where you're trying to get a head job. But someone made a great comment last week in the Top Connect deal I was in, and they said, hey, your biggest advocates are going to be, like Coach asked earlier, your mentors, or going to be people that call for you when you don't even know they're calling. It's going to be your head coach that's going to go out on a limb. That's one thing I appreciate about Coach Jans is he wants to help us move. He wants us, you know, to move upward, and he doesn't try to hold us back. And I know that's not always the case for everybody, but try to surround yourself with advocates for you, whether on your staff or your mentors or your head coach or your administrators, you know, that will help you become a head coach. And then to piggyback off that as well, sometimes I think as assistants, we get a little nervous and we try to not step on any toes. But what you need to do is you need to make sure you're networking and building genuine relationships where you are, even if Adam might not be the next head coach at UTSA. Hey, his AD there might eventually be the AD somewhere where that, you know, he wants the job. And so I think networking and building relationships with those people, and again, making sure it's organic and natural and not forced, but you truly build relationships with those people. Again, who knows where we're all going to be 5 to 10 years from now. But if you just do your job, which I'm guilty of a lot of times, and I don't even think about that kind of stuff. Well, then when they're looking for a next head basketball coach in New Mexico State, or they're looking for, you know, someone's name that they can put out there when someone calls it, you know, the AD at UTSA or North Texas, if you're not very deliberate in how you build those relationships with the people where you are, then how are they going to be able to put their neck on the line for you and be able to sell you, even if it's unbeknownst to you? And so those are three things that I think stick out to me. You know, from the basketball standpoint, I've been a head coach, so like the basketball stuff is always common sense to me when they start talking hoop. But at the same time, you know, when you start thinking about other things that maybe we don't think about, those are kind of three that stick out to me.
Good stuff.
Great answer, Coach. Great answer, Jay. So yeah, let's get to I'll allow my share screen to work so you can share as well, and we'll sit back and obviously we'll ask some questions if we have them as we go, but let's go ahead and get straight to the hoop stuff.
Okay, so when Coach Burton and I talked about what to talk about, I just told him I'd talk about our scouting. I'll be very generic, but I'm happy to share whatever, and Coach Jans is cool with it too. So like I'm not being generic to try to hide something from you. I'm almost being generic, so therefore hopefully you can ask me some questions that maybe I can show you some things and so on and so forth. So let's see. So I'm just going to talk about how we scout, okay, and share with you guys, you know, our system. And that's the one thing that Coach is really good at. He has systems that I've never seen or never been a part of that I really like, that I'll continue to take with me as I move forward. So we typically will start our scout just depending on days, right? But typically 2 days in advance. So if we play Saturday, the first time we'll look at a team will be on Thursday. So I got what we did for Mississippi State. We played them in December. We beat them down in Jackson. It was probably the turning point of our season. We were injured, banged up, you know, go down there and end up winning this game. But it was
Real quick.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt you. What's on our side is just black instead you're sharing the screen, but it doesn't say anything.
Does that show up now?
I can
Hey,
see
I
it.
see it.
Not
I can
yet.
see it.
I can see it.
That's
Okay,
good to
okay,
see
okay.
too.
If you guys can see it, you're good.
Okay, sorry. And just yell at me like you said if something's going on. So, this is the last game before Christmas break. We had 2 days to prep for it. It was a huge game for us because we were struggling so bad. We had lost, I think at this time, three guys for the season out with injuries, two all-league caliber players. So it was rough. But we knew going down there would be a chance for our season to turn. So again, like I said, we start 2 days in advance. So if we play on Saturday, the first, we played them on Saturday, for instance, we would have looked at this on Thursday afternoon. So we'll go through this scouting report. It's never longer than 2 pages. I'll just scroll down. DJ Stewart was our starting PG. I'm more wordy than anybody on our staff, hands down. And I get a lot of grief for it, but it is what it is. One thing working for Coach McCaslin is I knew that if I missed something, I probably was going to get a tongue lashing. So I picked that up from him, that I knew that I had to make sure I was on my P's and Q's. So sometimes I'm a little wordy, but you can see here, and I think what's unique about our situation is we typically deal with 1-year guys, 2-year guys. We don't typically have guys for 3 or 4 years, and we do a really good job. Our guys do a really, really good job of retaining this. And so, hey, easy money, right? Just a standard scouting report, starting 5. What we really want them to know is what's in red. They can know all the other stuff, and we're going to cover all the other stuff, but they got to know what's in the red on the bottom of the scout. You got to know on DJ Stewart, it's a regular closeout. He's a shot first, drive second guy, and you can't give him straight line drives, And so like Tyson Carter, who at the time was playing out of his mind. I mean, he was shooting 3 balls like Steph Curry as they were playing. He was running off screens. They run him off a lot of staggers on the baseline or baseline runner type action and pin downs. He was really fast. He's one of the fastest guys I've ever seen at coming off screens and heel toeing it. So, long closeout, we're either short, regular, or long. We don't get too complex with that. We try to keep it simple. But again, we'll read off everything, but what's in red is what they're, we're going to try to hold them to. So you got Robert Woodard, who's, in the NBA draft right now. Reggie Perry, who is a freak. I mean, that dude he's a beast. You got Ado. And so we would just go down with everybody like this, okay? So, typically we're going to have anywhere from 8 to 10 guys. If they're playing any type of role on the team, we'll have them within the scouting report. Again, we'll cover everything, but what's in red is what we really want to hold them accountable to, okay? So any questions on just the basic scout? Any questions on this? We're rocking.
Coach, what program are you using?
So for this, we literally use Excel, and then I just save it as a PDF. Like really, I mean, we're so basic. We don't have, whatever. What I don't even know what it's called anymore. We don't have Scout.
Fast
whatever.
Scout.
Yeah, we don't even have Fast Scout here. Yeah, thanks. Like it's past me now. We have Microsoft Excel, and it's 2 pages, and that's it. We're not diagramming anything. We're not doing all that. We're basic. But I'll show you where it gets a little bit more intricate. Any other questions on that, Zane?
No, that's probably what we'll do out here too.
Yeah, here we go, man. Hey, we're rocking and rolling. I'll send you the template in Excel when we get off. Okay. So we'll read that. Okay, and then we'll go over our video. Now we watch a ton of video here, whether it's of ourselves or whether it's in preparation. Okay. So this is the game day edit. This is what we showed our guys the morning of the game. It's 13 minutes long. We'll play and pause it as need be. So obviously it's structured in personnel, where you start with personnel. So I'm not going to play a whole thing, but you'll see, just an idea of it. You're going to obviously emphasize whatever we had in red on the scout. Hey, deep shooter, shoot first, drive second, and drive either way, whatever. Okay, so I'll scroll through these guys. Here's Carter. We're going to show him playing in transition with long range, deep range, running off screens. At the time, he was playing a lot of point guard for him, so he was handling the ball a little bit more because they had a kid that got eligible for our game versus them. Shooting it at a crazy high clip, and this is what he was really doing. He's running off screens, heel toeing it, and he's elite at it, man. It was really, really good, and he was taking all the big shots. So, we scroll through all the guys. Woodard, very simple, just Woodard, offensive rebounder, etc. He'll post up. So we'll do this for every single guy, right? We'll go through this. and again, this is the day of the game, so they're going to see in between 4 and 6 clips, depending on how many days we had to prepare for them. They're going to see more clips if it's a little bit less time. They're going to see less clips if we had 3 or 4 days to prepare for them. Although we're only going to start 2 days out. So then we'll get into, after the personnel, we get into what we like to call the quicks. So for us, okay, and this is where I think we're really good at scouting and think it's unique to people. All of our fast breaks we call quicks, okay? And we have specific names for what we run in transition, and we just keep it general for everybody. So if Zane, when we play you guys next year, or if we were to play North Texas and you guys had a certain action that you called a certain name, we're going to call it what we call it. We don't call it what you call it. Now, for an assistant, that's very difficult because when someone might call power, that might be a drag in transition, but we're just going to call it a drag. That would be an example of what I'm saying, and I can dive into that more as you guys ask some questions after I show you this stuff. But so for us, quicks is our fast break, whatever it is. So we're going to show them pretty much everything. So Mississippi State was a lead at converting off turnovers. If you go in there soft, they were going to beat your stuff and go dunk on you on the other end. If you turn it over sloppily, they're going to go over there and dunk it, okay? So drag sit-in is an example of what we call, just a simple drag sit-in. So if I was in practice or coach was in practice and you said, hey, guys, we're going to run a drag sit-in and then we're going to run X, Y, Z, whatever we want to call it, we're going to call it the same in our scouting preparation. And the reason for that is because we've all done this. Like when we were preparing for Kevin at UAB and they're running a baseline stagger and we're trying to explain to the guys, okay, Roosevelt, here's what they're going to do. They're going to hit this wing, then they're going to run this guy off the stagger after the dribble handoff. We've all been in that situation where it's so wordy. So what we do is we name every single action in preparation, and we name our own actions, and then we keep it generalized and do the same thing. So drag sit-in is probably that example. But for us, okay, when they come down and set this butt screen in transition, that's a gator screen in our language. So we always call it gator screen. It doesn't matter if we're playing Mississippi State or we're playing Grand Canyon or we're playing UTSA or Western New Mexico. That's a gator screen where they set the ash screen, okay? And then obviously SI is a sit-in, so they set the gator screen sit-in. So what I'm saying is no matter what way they get into us, whether it's late shot clock or it's in their quicks, which is in transition, we're always going to call this particular action the gator action. And we do it over the course of the year and we don't change the language. And I think it really helps our guys retain what we do. And you'll see as I kind of scroll through this, we cover pretty much everything. So I get a question a lot of times, okay, how do you guys take away set so well? And I think because the way that Coach Jans has this established in his system of scouting is really, really good. And it helps not only the assistants and the coaches, but also the players, obviously, retain what they're going to see. And so guys like programs like Grand Canyon, who ran upwards of 80 or 90 sets, we literally would cover all of their sets before we played them. And our guys wouldn't always just know it's coming, but they'd be very familiar with on how we're going to guard things. So I'll kind of scroll through this. So this is a quicks. This is all their fast break stuff. Pass follow is our terminology for, passing and then going following with the ball screen, or they can dribble handoff DHO. Okay. A pass back action is just passing back ball screen. So again, whoever we play, it doesn't matter what Mississippi State called this action. We just call it pass back. Okay. Now, I know if they call lightning or they call power and that's pass back, then when I hear, coach call power, then I'm yelling our guys pass back. So it's a little bit confusing at first for assistants because you're almost going from English to Chinese back to English when you're processing it. So that's the quicks. We'll always have quicks at the beginning of our scout video, and then we have sets. So we're always going to organize the sets in a series. Okay, so box sets for Mississippi State, they ran 4 main sets out of the box set. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean. Okay, and then those are the names that we give it. So they didn't call this up screen pin down. We call this up screen pin down out of the box set. Okay, and we knew that anytime Perry was here at the right elbow, we were going to front him when he went down to the block. It didn't matter. If they were in a box set and Perry was right here, we were fronting them because 80% of the time that's where they were trying to go. So we would go through each of the actions, okay, and we would just know, okay, in the box series, all right, we're going to front Perry when he goes to the right-hand block. But most importantly, all these names that are confusing to all of us right now is we're just looking and saying like, damn, they remember all that. Zipper sit-in is going to be zipper sit-in the whole year. Box pin down, whatever it might be. It's going to be that the whole year. Cross screen, okay, to pin down. When I say cross PD to our guys, when we're walking through it on the floor, they might not know exactly how they're going to get into it, but if I'm yelling at them, it's going to be a cross PD. They know this is the action that's coming. And so that's how we're able to cover things quite a bit over the course of the season. So it doesn't matter what you guys would call it. We would just be calling it our terminology. But what you find is over the course of the season, you're going to start seeing the same actions over and over and over again. So when we see rescreen pin down against Mississippi State, and then and earlier in the year we saw it against Arizona, and then when we play Utah Valley, they run it. Now it's going to be rescreen pin down no matter who we play. Okay. So any questions so far on what I'm saying? Okay, we're rocking. If Burton pops up, then I'm stopping. Okay, so here would be like the floppy sets that they would run. Okay, again, curl, lightning, 45 lightning fist, Jacksonville side. Those are all our terminology. Okay, it's not what Mississippi State called it. But again, whoever we're playing, that's our terminology. Okay, so I think it helps. Okay, floppy sets. We're like, damn, you guys are covering all this stuff. Okay, yeah. So this is just easy. This is floppy. They're going to shoot a shot. Okay, floppy curl, and they were running all this for 23. He was electric in this stuff. Okay, but lightning. So for instance, this is a great way to show you guys. Lightning for us is a dribble handoff into a ball screen. We all see that almost every single game from anybody that runs ball screens, right? So for us, we call this lightning. If we wanted to go out and run our ball screen offense, and I told Johnny McCants, hey, we're going to run lightning on this side, then he knows lightning is he's going to go dribble handoff. Someone's going to dribble handoff into a ball screen. But when we play Mississippi State and we say lightning, they might not know exactly how it's going to start. Okay, and this is out of the floppy series, but they know lightning floppy series is going to be a dribble handoff into a ball screen. They might not know exactly how it's going to start, but they know what's going to end up being a dribble handoff into a ball screen. And so there's a lot of different ways to get into it. So for us, like a 45 cut is just that 45 angle when they cut. It's kind of like a back cut or a fist cut. There's the 45, and then again, it's lightning. So it's very football-like in the system that we have in place. But again, it helps us and our guys retain a ton of information. A fist will be a back cut, anytime, anybody we play. If I say, hey, they're going to try to fist you, that's the back cut. So it allows us to continue to show, every single action, every single thing that we want to try to prepare for. Our thought process in scouting is to first take away any layup or dunk that's a timing play. And then obviously after that, take away any open shots. Any layup or dunk we're taking away. Any timing type play where it can be a lob where they can put it on our head and we can change it. We're taking those away first. And then obviously we want to get it to where there's no open shots. So runner set. So I think you guys probably getting the gist of it. Zipper runner, point runner, throwback. TV is throwback runner, dribble handoff runner side. So this was their runner series. Even though they didn't call it that, we group it in series to make it easier for our guys to remember. So by the time you're done with the scout, they've gone over 40 or 50 different things. People are like, damn, you guys go over 40 or 50 different actions and answers. Yes, you will. And to be honest with you, it's crazy as it sounds, but do a really good job of retaining it. So again, keep everything in series, and then we keep it in our jargon and our language. So it's not going to be, hey, we're going to play Mississippi State tonight. They're going to zipper this guy up, and then, hey, 23 is going to run the baseline, and then all of a sudden, it's going to be zipper runner. Hey, they're running zipper runner. We're not going to try to explain it. Our guys know by what we're saying, what our language is over the course of the year. Oh, that's zipper runner. If I went out there and I told somebody to go run point runner, they would know what I'm talking about. And even though we don't run any point runner or the point ball screen or the point back screen, and then he runs off the baseline, if I say point runner, they'll know what the premise of the action is going to be. And so I think I've never been anywhere or coached anywhere in the 15 years of me coaching college where I've been around a system like this. I'll wherever I coach moving forward, I'm going to try to bring this with me, whether I'm the head coach or assistant. I'll recommend it to anybody because the amount that I will say again that we can retain with our guys and us over the course of the year and being able to show them the is invaluable and they get it. So 2 days in advance, we're gonna read over the scout with them, the paper scout. We're gonna watch a extended version of this video, which will be probably 14 to 15 minutes long. We'll cut it down 10 to 12, 13 minutes at max on game day, depending on how many actions they run. And then within the segment of practice, once we'll go scouting report on the first day. We'll watch this video. Then we'll go down and we'll have the scout team walk through every action. And we'll just be joysticking it. Hey, this is what it looks like. This is what it is. Boom. Next action. Boom. We'll go through all the main actions that they run. And then within practice, we'll have 1 or 2 live segments where, you're gonna be guarding what Mississippi State or whoever we're preparing for is running. And again, we'll go in groups of 3 or 4, and then we'll get back together as a scout team, and then we'll do it again. We try to show a lot of video of us guarding their actions within the preparation segment and standpoint from the next day video. Hey, I'm going to show, Mississippi State running DHO runner, and then I'm going to show us guarding DHO runner and where we might have messed it up in practice the day before, especially on the 5 to 10 sets that they seem to score most on. So I'll just scroll through
Miller,
it.
2 quick questions. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Burton. You saying something?
Yeah. Number one, I've been in a program before, or a couple of programs that have done something similar. My question is, which I think is phenomenal too. My question is, what about things that you don't run? Do you name it something every time consistently? Like if there's a certain style of offense, do you name it something so consistently that's every time?
Right.
That's my first question.
Okay, so good, perfect question for this particular set. We don't run the Virginia action, the mover blocker, I guess is what some people call it. We don't run Virginia, but because Virginia's kind of made it famous, we're calling it Virginia. We'll never run Virginia. We'll never run the actions out of it, but we're going to show it to our guys as Virginia. So these are the sets they'll run in the Virginia series or the Virginia sets, okay? But you'll see the second bullet point. Okay, Virginia is just the main action. Virginia Jacks. Well, a Jacksonville screen for us is just a cross screen, okay? So when our guys see Virginia Jacks, they might not know exactly in the game or in preparation, okay, where's the cross screen, or we call it Jacksonville screen, coming from? But when they hear me yelling Jacks, they know someone's about to get their block knocked off. So they're got their head on the swivel because if nothing else, they know there's a cross screen coming when I start yelling Jacks. And so we'll name every action we see as the year progresses. Obviously, earlier on, you're going to have a few more, but as you get into the league, you're typically going to have seen, what you're going to, 85 to 90% of the sets you're going to see when you get to the league. So, yeah. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, second question is how many so you talked about earlier you play 10, 11 guys sometimes in a rotation.
Yep.
How many guys would actually walk through, and did that take extra time, or were they just smart enough to pick it up without having to walk through? How did you guys do that?
So here's what we do on walkthroughs. At the beginning of the first time we introduce it, all our guys are on the baseline watching. The first day we'll introduce whoever it is that we're playing. So Mississippi State on Thursday, we go paper scout, we go this video scout or a form of this video scout, and then we're going to walk through it with the scout team. The scout team will have the jersey numbers on of the guys at their particular position that they are for the standpoint of the scout. And all our guys will be on the baseline watching it the first time. It's just watching, trying to digest it all, because obviously it's been a crazy hour of getting a lot of information thrown on them. And they're just going to digest, okay, here's the Virginia stuff, here's whatever, okay? And then once we get into day 2, even if it's the end of day 1, if we have time permitting, depending, maybe it was the day between the game where we're going to introduce at the beginning. Well, then at the end, we'll have 2 groups, okay? And sometimes 3, depending on who's playing, where injuries are, how many guys we're playing, but we'll have 2 groups. And so, for instance, the scout team will run 5 sets, and then another group will come in and they will guard the same 5 sets. And those guys are expected to watch the guys in front of them. So if A.J. Harris made a mistake on guarding this Virginia-Jacksonville action, then when Sean Buchanan comes in, he better not make the same mistake guarding this Virginia-Jacksonville action. So we'll run 4 or 5 actions, and we'll have usually 2 rotations of the team. And this year when we were playing with 7 or 8 guys at times, then we would have them guard other positions. We still would have 2 rotations. But say Sean Buchanan had to guard the 1, but then we knew he'd have to guard the 3 at times based off matchup purposes. So then on the second rotation, we just have him slide to the 3. That would be an example of how we would kind of modify that.
Yep. Good.
Question?
Thanks, man.
Sure. So pretty simple. Here's all the actions, miscellaneous sets. Okay. Again, so Coach Burton just asked, okay, what if they run something that you never see? We never saw this. And they actually called this cluster. So it was easy for us. So we just called it cluster because we knew we'd never see this. It was kind of a unique action, kind of an old school, triple or double stagger look. So Mississippi State actually called this cluster. Nobody ever ran it against us again for the rest of the year. But if I ever came across somebody, or we ever came across somebody in preparation and scouting, and we said, hey, remember Mississippi State ran cluster, and then we could show it to them, and then we would obviously show it in the film breakdown. Well, then now we know for the rest of the year, if anybody ran any action like this, we would call it cluster, even though that was what their name was for it. So it's not always we have our own name, like you said, Coach Burton, because you're going to come across some actions that we don't run or we haven't seen yet. But if that's the case, then we like to name it, hey, if we know the call for it, we'll just name it their call. So when Ben Howland always, Coach Allen always liked to run cluster the first play of the game or out of a timeout after half, we knew, hey, guys, watch out for cluster. Here comes cluster because that's what they like to do. So that would be an example of what we would do if nobody had seen that.
Were you guys big into name calls, Coach?
Say it one more time.
Are you guys big into play calls, like actually getting the actual call? And if you are, is that confusing with what you guys call it or no?
As assistants, we're big on getting play calls as assistants. But I'll never say to one of our players, they're going to run I'm going to tell our guys they're running Ivo as an Iverson guard over. I'm never going to tell them that they call this, 53 right. Now, as an assistant, I need to know that they call this 53 right. So when they call 53 right, then I'm yelling, Ivo guard over, Ivo guard over. Even if I'm yelling guard over, they know it's coming. Even if it's just part of the action. You following me? But I'll never say to our point guards, hey, when they run 53 right, it's Ivo guard over. And then you got to do this, because I think in scouting, at most of the places I've been, we start talking about, okay, he's coming off this stagger screen and then it's followed by a cross screen. And then the dudes are looking at you like and speaking Chinese. Well, when I say, hey, guess what? They're going to run Ivo, which is short for Iverson, guard over, then they know anytime we play somebody, okay, here's the Iverson, and then here comes the guard over, the handoff. And so it just makes it very, very easy as the course of the year goes on, where there's no confusion. They might get into it a different way, and if they do, no big deal. We can put it in a certain series, like, okay, here's the Ivo series, or here's the floppy series, or here's a stagger series, whatever. But if I say guard over, then they know that's what guard over looks like. If I say DH, whatever the terminology might be for your particular place. So we would show them all this stuff, ball screen sets, and this is all stuff we would watch on the day of the game. And I promise you, we have a really good retention rate for being able to take people out of sets. I think last year, I talked on a Zoom a couple of weeks ago, I said last year we were number one in the country on assist rate in guarding sets. So we took people out of their sets. This year, I think we're in the 33rd, 35th rank, something right in there. So we do a really good job and take great pride on, again, not giving up scoring layups, scoring dunks, scoring lobs, and then not giving up open shots. And then obviously, like against a team like Mississippi State, we're not going to let number 23 heel toe us off of the baseline runner action. And we definitely were going to do everything we could to make it difficult for Reggie Perry not to get a double-double and kill us, which he did anyways. I mean, he's just a freak. So what are you going to do? He's a pro. He's a legitimate pro. So with that being said, that's kind of the tactic. So, we show all these sets, okay? We'll show the zone offense. Again, it's just our terminology. Defensively, same thing, okay? 50 defense for us is half court man-to-man. So I'm saying, hey, they're running 50 defense. Okay, again, it's a very football-like terminology, I think, from the standpoint of our system. And then, red for us is hard hedge, so they read the ball screen. And then when it says P2P, that's paint to pass. So when our guys read that in film breakdown, there's very little regurgitation I need to say. They know what that means when they see it. And then it's, okay, hey, if it's paint to pass, coach, are we looking for the dunker spot? Are we looking for the drift, which is a corner for us? Are we looking for the roll-up guy? And so those will be some of the questions they'll ask, as opposed to, okay, what is 50? They know that. They've learned that, and it doesn't change from day one all the way through the end of the season. So we'll show all defense, all offense, and then, at the end, we'll obviously emphasize things that are important that we want to emphasize. So any questions on any of that before I stop sharing and close it down?
Coach, how much of that are you putting on your boards in the locker room for the guys to see?
Yeah, great question. So we're going to put a majority of it, if not all of it, Zane, but we're going to highlight – okay, so we're going to highlight what they typically run the most or talk about. So how we do pregame is, and again, I've never been part of anything like it, is at 42, 43, whatever time we come up and do the first kind of talk, the assistants do that talk. And so it's a preparation for our game plan. So, for instance, all those sets you just saw were on the board in Jackson when we were playing Mississippi State. But the ones that myself and Coach Jans knew that they were going to run a majority of the time or that were really big scoring plays for them, I was going to talk specifically about those. Or if we had a hard time guarding specific actions or specific sets in practice, that was what I was going to hit on in my offensive talk from the standpoint of these are the sets they run. Okay, defensively, if we knew that they were going to spring a 2-2-1 after made free throws, and obviously I'm going to talk about that when I'm talking about defense. But it all will be on the board, which obviously can be very, very wordy. But what I found is, and what coaches, like Grand Canyon, the previous regime, they ran so many sets because he was an NBA guy. And so, literally, I couldn't fit all the sets on the whiteboard as we're getting ready to play them in the WAC championship. But when you put them in within a series and you group them up, and then it's just, hey, these are the floppy sets, and here are the 14 actions they'll run. But I'm going to talk about the 2 or 3 things that are the most prevalent or that gave us problems in the previous game. Then I find that the guys retain it pretty good, and it's worked really well for us.
Good question, Zane.
Hey, Coach Miller, Ken Moses. You guys use Sports Code, or you guys use Synergy, or you guys use both when you edit everything out?
Sports Code, pretty much always Sports Code. Now, that's not to say, for example, if we're playing whoever, we're playing Grand Canyon, and we're having a debate in the office if Javon Blackshear, point guard, is better going right or left. That's not to say that Coach Jans might not say to somebody, hey, go over there and watch all Blackshear's plays off ball screens and see which way he's better going, and use Synergy to do that, right? But when it comes to making clip tapes and it comes to putting together our scout, 99.9% of it's going to be on Sports Code.
I got one for you, Coach. So for yourself, let's say you talked about Grand Canyon with your scouts. So let's say you're playing Grand Canyon the first time during the season, not in the tournament where you haven't played them already. First question is, how much preparation do you do to prepare for them? Do you watch so many games? Do you break down on your staff, or somebody's coaching offense, somebody's coaching defense, so everybody's a part of the scout question? Second question is, what adjustments do you make the second time you play them, if you play them?
So from a preparation standpoint, if it's your scout, it's your scout. You and Coach Jans are going to be doing a majority of the grunt work. Now, my position is a little unique because every game I'm responsible for every matchup. So I don't feel like there's many games where I don't know what's going on because obviously I'm matching everybody up at any given time. So I can't. If we're playing Arizona and it's not my scout, I can't not know what Arizona's going to do or who their guys are, right? But with that being said, when it's Corey Scout against UTEP, then it's Corey Scout. He and Coach are going to do a majority of the legwork, and then obviously I'm going to have to do my own research, whether it's with Synergy or Sports Code, to figure out who's who and what's what from the defensive standpoint. Now, that's not to say that we might not all come in the office and Coach Jans might say, hey, I think I want to guard it like this. Does anybody have, any objections to it, or anybody see any, does anybody see any problems with it? And that happens from time to time. But, for instance, with Grand Canyon, depending on how much time you have to prepare for them, obviously, if it's the first game or the second game on the back end of the road swing or it's a home swing or what have you, for me personally, I'm slow in retaining information. It takes me a long time to clip up, but once I watch 2 or 3 full games, then I have a pretty good grasp on where it's at. And then, if you look at my organizer, which is, how you put stuff in Sports Code, obviously, my organizer has, by the end of the year, when we play Grand Canyon, 12, 13, 14, 15, every conference game damn near is clipped up and in there. And I try not to delete anything because I can always just go back and click a section and say, okay, here's them playing on ball screens, here's Blackshear, and I have, 85 clips of them that I've just clipped out in passing. Now, as the year progresses and people, and maybe they play an opponent that plays all zone, and we don't play very much zone, then sure, let's hop on synergy and we can fast forward through some stuff, still see if there's anything different, see if there's any tendencies that have changed. But at the same time, you kind of know people by the time the second go around. So then the second part of your question is, we obviously make adjustments the second time. Grand Canyon really hurt us by splitting ball screens the first game. So we were really cognizant of that. They like to refuse ball screens the first game. So we really made sure they used them, in the second game. One way that we really adjusted to how we played is people really hurt us on setting a high ball screen in the middle third and picking and popping because they were dragging our bigs out. So we just started like literally hard hedging everything in the middle of the floor. And that really worked well for us. So we're definitely tweaking. And like I said with Coach earlier, he's always evolving. He's always trying to get better. He's not a guy that's in his lanes and we're only going to do it this way. That's not him. And I think that's what makes him so special and elite at what he does is he's open to new things and he learns from it and us just like we learn from him. So we definitely make a lot of adjustments from game to game standpoint.
Coach Miller, two-part question. When you guys are in game situations, where are the coaches positioned on the bench as far as where the scout coach is? And then my second part is during the timeouts, is it an open forum when you guys huddle up as coaches, an open forum, or does the scout coach get the first, crack at suggestions and things like that?
Yeah, so as far as a bench is concerned, I'm always in the seat that's like further closest to the opponent. That's just, I don't know why, but that's just where I think for matchup purposes, right? Because you're standing up, you're matching guys up, media timeouts, even quick subs, boom, boom, boom. I'm yelling, I'm standing up. So I think it's easier from that standpoint to match it up. Now I know in my experience, it's also easier when it's your scout to be at that spot because then you can hear the calls a little bit better. So what I'm trying to do when I'm in that seat personally is if it's not my scout and I don't know the calls off the top of my head very well for that particular opponent, I'm yelling at CB or Anwar, yo, they just called XYZ. It's and then they have a little sheet typically that says, okay, they just called power. Oh, that's lightning. That's dribble hand. So that would be the way we go about it. But it's myself on the first seat. It's Coach McClurg, who's our video guy, he's really good at retaining and knowing what's coming because he helps everybody with their scout and seeing a lot of videos. So he sees it pretty well, and then he can alert one of the assistants. It's Coach Jan's seat, which he doesn't sit down but about the first minute of the game. So then typically that'll be whoever just came out of the game from you talk to him. It's whoever scout is next to him, next to that empty seat typically, or whoever's just came out of the game. And then we'll have one or two players, and then it'll be one of the other assistants kind of in the middle that can continue to kind of help, I don't want to say monitor, but continue to help coach on the bench and stay in the guys' ears about the right things and not the wrong things and not letting it be a pity party down there in the middle of the bench or the end of the bench. And I think that's been really, really effective for us. I think it works really well. So that's the first part of the question. And then the second part, what was it again? That's how I am, dude. Sorry.
That was all good. During timeouts.
Okay, got it. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. So during timeouts, coach is definitely good with everybody making suggestions. As you know and I know, when it's in the heat of battle and we're trying to figure out what's what, and he has 7 or 8 people or 7 or 8 different opinions coming into him, then there has been a time or two where he probably barks back at us a little bit. So what typically has happened, and it's just kind of evolved this way, just naturally, is if there's something that's really, really important, guys will usually come to me and say, hey, let coach know this. And then, but I'm responsible for matchups, right? So in media timeouts, I'm looking at who's coming in the game, who we got on there. I'll make a suggestion on my own, whatever. But if it's something that's really important, then I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll tell coach. If it's something where I'm like tired of telling coach everything, I just tell whoever it is, you tell them. You know what I mean? Like I'm putting it on you. Because sometimes you know what's coming as soon as you make a suggestion. So I'm like, all right, CB, your scout, you tell him then. And he'll look at me like, I'll be like, yeah, it's on you this time, dude. So but it's naturally happened that way. But it's not because coach has said, hey, I only want Miller to make suggestions. It's really just happened naturally that way.
I would take maybe 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap things up with some final thoughts from Coach, and then thank everybody for coming.
Hey, Coach, I know you talked about how you guys keep the terms the same all year long, which I love. Are you guys going over those early in the year, just as they come game to game? How are you guys giving them the vocabulary to maintain it throughout the year?
Yeah, so as the year progresses, it's almost just like a terminology dictionary that just progresses with the year. A lot of the terminology are things we run as our sets. So if we run a set called Jacksonville, and there'll be a number on it before, and Jacksonville is a cross screen, right? Well, when we play you guys on November 10th, and we're preparing for you, then we're going to say, hey, they run a Jacksonville screen, hey, da-da-da-da-da. So they run Jacksonville out of the floppy, or they run whatever it might be. So I just think as over the course of time and you start seeing the same actions, and then they just start to retain it. And obviously we're going to go over the video 2 times minimum, usually 3, 4, or 5 times before we play somebody. And then we're going to go over the paper scout 2 times minimum, even if it's 1 day prep, again, probably 3 or 4 times. And then over the course of time, and we keep giving the same information. And you saw the paper scout. It's detailed, but it's only 2 pages. It's front and back, and that's it. We don't give them play diagrams. We don't talk about, hey, we don't diagram this blob. We don't do all that. It's the scout, it's the video, and then what we show them on the floor. And then over the course of time, shoot, if you don't know what Jacksonville is in our offense, that means you don't even know our own set, so you ain't gonna play. And if I assume you're gonna know what Jacksonville is because we run a play called Jacksonville, then hopefully you'll pick it up when someone on our bench starts saying, hey, it's Jacksonville. Then they might not know where the cross screen's coming from, but someone's going to get their block knocked off. And so they know they're got their head on the swivel looking for a cross screen.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Miller, how do you guys do everything with blobs and out of bounds stuff?
So same thing, we come up with terminology for certain actions within the blobs. We cover the blobs typically the day of the game in shoot around, at the end of shoot around. If it's a team that scores on their blobs, then we'll cover it the day before at the end of practice as well. Same thing with slobs. Slobs typically have an action that we're already going to have a name for, right? So we'll show them how it starts, and then basically it'll be like Tennessee for us is usually a shuffle stagger. So a lot of people run Tennessee action or shuffle stagger from a slob, right? And so when I say, hey guys, they like to run Tennessee, we walk them through it, boom, they know. Okay, boom, Tennessee, easy. And obviously as an assistant, if you're Johnny on the spot and you know your shit, then when you start, yelling Tennessee, because you know what they're calling, or you see the setup or the alignment of it, then the guys are going to know. When I start yelling Tennessee, they're not going to think I'm, talking about the state. They're going to know I'm talking about the action. And so again, we found it to be pretty good for us.
Any game goal?
Sorry, repeat that.
Any game goals that you guys try to achieve every game?
Yeah, so at halftime, we have, I wouldn't even say it's typically not a specific number, but at halftime we kind of have like 5 or 6 things that we'll compare and contrast us versus whoever we're playing. On that is going to be paint touches. So how many times we got in the paint, how many times they got in the paint, whether it's a drive, a feed, whatever, however we got in the paint. Paint touches, charges taken for both teams, deflections, offensive rebounds, because obviously offensive rebounds big for us. How many they have, how many we have, and I think field goal percentage is the other one. But it's typically things that we think are going to be, not necessarily hustle stats, but a lot of times it ends up being hustle stats, and it kind of shows typically how focused we are on playing hard and having the aggressiveness we want to play with from game to game.
Hey, Coach, got a question for you. You had the opportunity to be a JUCO head coach, and I kind of wanted to ask you, going into that, what is something that kind of caught you by surprise or something that you weren't expecting And then as you went through the year, what's something that you know, will stick with that you thought you did really well? And then after your first year, what's something that, you know, didn't really go well that you would change if you got the opportunity to be a head coach again?
So,
Tell them real quick, Coach, where you are and what your position is, if you don't mind. You're on mute, Coach.
My bad. This is Coach Robert Ford. I'm the head men's basketball coach at Salem University, D2 in West Virginia.
awesome. So, Coach, for me, it was a little unique because I recruited a majority of the guys that were there with me the first year, which, you know, typically we're not all going to be in that situation when we get a head job. So it was a little unique, to say the least. The hardest part of the first year for me, going from assistant to head coach, was I was so close with most of those guys, not everybody, but most of them. And I had gone from being big brother, positive guy, pat them on the butt guy, to now I'm the guy that's MFing them and getting in their face. And so there was a little bit of a challenge with that. But with that being said, like, I probably would never be closer to any team I coached that first year because those were all my guys. And I don't mean it like I signed everybody. I mean, those were my guys. Those were like my little brother. I wasn't old enough to be their father at the time, but I was really, really close with the majority of those guys. So all of a sudden, the guy who was, you know, driving them to Wendy's or driving them to Walmart or talking to their mom every day or making sure they were doing this and doing that is a guy that's, you know, getting on their stuff about not playing good defense and sitting them on the bench. And so that was probably the biggest challenge. I was prepared for everything. Luckily, because I had been, you know, like I said earlier, the foundation I had from the people I worked for before, where they allowed me to make those mistakes, I was prepared. We were good. Now, would I do a better job with that first year now than I did then? Of course, because just naturally over the course of time we get better. And so that for sure would be done. But after the first year, I think what was really glowing to me, and it was proven, because the first year I was head coach, we went to Hutch. We were 27-7. We had 7 guys or 8 guys signed Division I, ACC, NC State, Texas Tech. I had a kid sign here. I mean, really good team and really good kids for the most part. But what was really evident to me, and that it really cemented what we were doing, was I got to make sure that I recruited guys that were tailor-made for me. I didn't always do that as a good job as an assistant. Coach Tiff would tell you that, because I would bring in there some renegades that I had a soft spot for, but they weren't really what he wanted to coach. But at the same time, we were at New Mexico Junior College at the time that hadn't been any good for 15 years. And so I knew, okay, we're going to play Coach Hodge, who had like 10 high major or 10 Division I guys, 4 or 5 guys who are going to go high major. You know, these guys are pros over there at Midland. And it was like bringing knives to a gunfight the first year we were there. So over the course of time, I knew that, you know, I needed to get guys as a head coach that I could coach. And the guys that, you know, resonated with me were guys that, as long as they were like, had good hearts, I was good with them. But usually it was a second chance guy or whatever. As long as they weren't the guys that were going to be lying to me or taking $20 out of my wallet when they're sitting over there, I could coach those guys. I could coach anybody when it comes to, if they have a good heart. I really can. So I knew that going forward, that was what we needed to do. And we had success second year and not as quite as much the third year I was there. And to be honest with you, the third year was our most talented team. But we had too many guys that weren't tailor-made for who I was as a coach at the time and what I needed to have to be successful. So did I miss any part of that question? Because I'm like I was short-term memory stuff.
No, that was good, Coach. Appreciate it.
Sure.
I got something for you, Coach, and we'll end with this one, man, unless somebody else has another one. But we've talked about this before, and I think it's something that was a strength of yours when you were a junior college head coach, and you kind of touched on it. But just talk about the importance of when you're a head coach, just shooting people straight and your philosophy and just kind of calling people out and creating that culture of just honesty, even when it's something silly that somebody did, just calling it out in front of teammates so that guys understand, like, this is how we do it here. It's not like we're going to have this closed door meeting and I'm gonna get on this guy about this. It's like everybody's going to have an idea where everybody stands and everybody's going to be treated fairly in front of everyone else. Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so as a head coach, I didn't have closed door meetings with players, especially in regards to playing time. Now, if there was a family situation or there was something personal in their life, that was different. For sure, we have closed door meetings. But when it came to talking hoop and guys wanting to know something about their role, or they were pissed off about this or upset about that, we had meetings as a team, whether it was in the locker room at the end of practice, or it was in the classroom after video. Everything I told our guys from a basketball standpoint was within our team setting. Okay, so if you ever do that, just understand there's going to be some situations where you're going to have a battle on your hands with somebody in front of everybody else, which that didn't bother me at all, and it still wouldn't bother me. But why I thought that was really important was, as an assistant, you always have guys coming back to you saying, well, coach ain't playing me for this, or I did this. And, no, like it's very, very clear where everybody stands in this situation. Hey, you want to play more, but you can't play more. Come here, girl. You wave. So you gotta be quiet though. So we would always have these open conversations, and guys didn't like it. But what I found was, the perfect example would be Jeff Newberry. Okay, Jeff Newberry played for me my second year as a head coach. He had committed to Oklahoma State at the time, and I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't have anything to do with his recruiting because he had transferred to us. Well, Jeff Newberry was already committed to Oklahoma State. He wants to go take an official visit after he had already taken an unofficial visit on the day of a scrimmage. And so I said, okay, Jeff, and this is in front of everybody. We scrimmage on Saturday. This is Thursday. He's getting ready to leave the next morning. And I said to Jeff, yes, good job, girl. I say to Jeff, hey, you can go to Oklahoma State, but I want you to know you're the point guard of our team, and that's selfish. And I said it in front of everybody in our program. And so Jeff looked at me like, what do you mean I'm selfish, girl? And I said to him, well, it's selfish because you've already committed. You're supposed to be a point guard of our team, and you're going to party in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and do your thing, and you don't care about us winning. Jeff Newberry and I hated each other before that. Jeff Newberry is one of the favorite guys I ever coached after that specific conversation. And what it did was it validated to our team what everybody already knew, and they were going to go talk about it in the dorms. Oh, Jeff's selfish, man. He's going up to Stillwater to party, and he's going to go do that thing. He don't even care about us winning. Well, now everybody knows, hey, the head coach is hip to what's really going on. You're not fooling me. You're not going to con me. And at the same time, I'm holding you accountable. So, yeah, you can still go on your official visit. But when you get back, just understand everybody knows what's up. You can't con a con man, as Coach Jans would say. And I'm not quite the con man that he is. But at the same time, everybody knows where they stand in the program. There's no closed-door conversations. When they have those closed-door conversations or they're back at the dorms bitching about it, then everybody says, oh, shoot, well, Coach already made it known where it stands, so why is this guy complaining about it? Coach has already told him, hey, man, you got to work harder. You don't ever get in the gym, so why would you start? So why would you come over here and say, I don't know why I'm not playing, man? No, we all know where it was. So if I'm ever head coach again, I think I'll do the exact same thing. Now, you have to have a really good relationship with the guys, though, to be that brutally honest with them within the confines of it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what was a big strength of yours, man, is that guys knew where they stood, and everybody wants to be shot straight, and have a fair chance. The second question I would ask you with that is just, did you ever have it where it was confrontational or too confrontational? Because I think your confrontation is a healthy confrontation, from what I know, is calling a guy out and keeping it real, but it's not necessarily demeaning or like going over the top or name calling or anything like that. It's just calling like this is what it is.
My guys always knew and still know, I think, where I stand with them, and that's that I love them, but I'm going to hold them accountable. They don't always like that. They didn't like it when I was a head coach. They definitely don't like it when you're the assistant and holding them accountable. They really hate that. Okay, but they know at the end of the day, I got what is, in my opinion, their best interest in mind, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they're successful. So was there confrontation? Absolutely. Did it get heated? Absolutely. But I'm not afraid personally as a coach of confrontation. I work for Pat Eberhard, and I always used to tell him, you're like Bobby Knight. You're crazy what you're doing. But it's perfect because it helped me with my foundation and understanding that confrontation oftentimes is very good when you're in a family environment. Okay, so for me, it didn't bother me. Yeah, it happened quite a bit. But again, we all knew where we stood. And to me, that makes so much easier when you take out the whole environment of, oh, man, coach ain't playing me, and they're just over there bitching. No, man, we're all on the same team. We all got to be on the same platform. We all got to be on the same page. And so when that happens, then now okay, we're good. Now we're on the same page. And they don't always have to like it, but again, when you win, that obviously helps it too.
And I think to go with it, Coach, just to call it what it is, but it just makes it where everything's on the table, everything's in the light. You know what I mean? Nothing's in the dark as far as like, oh, well, Coach doing this or this is going on behind the scenes. It's like everything's in the light, everything's out in the open. So now we all know what it is. Let's go.
There was never a situation where somebody who wasn't playing didn't know why they weren't playing. They always knew why they weren't playing. They might not have liked what I said or agreed with it, but as a head coach, that's reality. Those are the decisions you make. But everybody knew exactly where they stood at the time.
No, that's awesome. I just wanted to add that question in because I think it's important because even as assistants, like you said, I think it's just a powerful thing to be able to do in a healthy way, just to be able to call it out. So, no, that was great, man. So awesome job today, man. Really appreciate a few more things and we'll wrap it up, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me, of course. It means the world to me. What I would say to anybody who's still left on the call, because I did the scouting thing, I noticed a couple people dropped off. Sorry. I'm always accessible for those of you who don't know. I guess I typed my number. I'm not good at that Zoom part, but feel free to call or text me anytime. I love to talk ball. And if there's anything I can ever do to help somebody, I'll do it. I'm not always great at like getting back to you right away because obviously life's busy, but I'll always get back to you even if it's a day or two or a week later. But I appreciate it. For you allowing me to talk to you guys and you, Coach Burton, for having me. And I mean what I say, like I want to help people, man. So if there's anything I can do to help anybody, 12 people left on the call, if I can help any of the 12 people left on the call, I'm in. Just hit me up.
No, it's awesome. Thank Coach Jans too for letting you, really give some details about the program. It's no wonder why you guys are so successful in the details, man. All that stuff just makes such a big difference. The winning is in the details and definitely winning championships consistently and being that dominant because we all know that anytime you're winning in the league, people want to take you down. So credit to you guys for keeping your foot on the gas and continuing to build it, and credit to Coach for continuing to want to grow. And you're definitely a guy who doesn't get enough recognition for how great you are. I'm glad the rest of the business is starting to show you more love, and just blessed to call you a friend and a brother, bigger than basketball, and just excited to see what you continue to do, man.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Now both of us got to go enjoy our anniversaries, man, before we end up.
Please, gentlemen, go enjoy your anniversary now. Thank you for doing that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure, guys.
Absolutely, man. Thanks again, Jay. Thanks, fellas, for coming on.